Morning, man.
Okay, we'll start at 12, no? Yeah. So that you take that one. Yeah, can you still talk, man? The mic is already on. Oh, good is I know you're going to try that. Also, move on with you. Also, move on with you.
It's a chance. We still check it.
So what's good? So because this is
Oh,
going to
okay.
start.
We can go before we start.
Okay.
And then we're going to move the mic this side. So yeah. Okay, guys. You will sharp most or must we? No, we don't swap chairs. We will just move the mics. Yeah, I'll send it to you. Okay. Okay, let me just, for strapping, let me just send you the names
In the group.
in the group. Ne? I'm sending you the 3 names. No, not 3, 2.
Okay.
Send names in the group. Graham is this side. Graham this side. Don't pay attention to that side.
Yeah.
The time is moving so slow when you are rushing.
Now that we've been waiting for it,
He's hardly ever there.
Uyabona manje uyangilandela ngisusela oyidisturbe mina
The latest one on the finance and electricity. That is electricity. Water. Just by looking at it. That's what you made them
But you, what happened to Siphamandla?
I don't know where you went.
You invited me on Facebook the other day. I think it's got newspaper or something like that. The post or something. It's based on that guy.
Yeah. But you can't be all over.
He used to be a politician on campus.
Politics, student politics. I remember the other day saying I'm not paying you. You didn't even know where you go because
What's going
you know that Harampo on Facebook especially. Yeah,
That's his.
yeah, that's his position.
Is he still married to
Apparently they separated. Yeah, it's been years. It's been years.
But some people say
Some choices were made. Yeah, some are good, some are and now we are caring about this radio music.
and then
owning imaginary trust.
That municipality, where is it called? Until you finish this master.
is he still that hardcore, a politician? No.
Now when you get money,
Yeah.
all of these things, you betray the movement.
You no longer care.
There are so many communities who betray the movement. People are not
Tila. Sharp. Zola. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming to our media briefing. And let's start by apologizing for starting late. We sincerely apologize for that. We have our Director for Legal Services, non-petesho Robozi. On my string, on my left. This is left, yeah, left. And then next to me, I have Tembegile Graham. She was the project leader from CMA for Athens. So MEC Chiloane, responsible for 2 departments, very busy MEC in Gauteng. Let's not waste any time. Allow the MEC to lead us, and then we'll give it to CMA for Athens to go through the executive summary of the report. MEC?
Thank you so much. Good day. I will start with time. It's still a good day. We have come back to report back on the investigation that we conducted attendees to assist us with regard to what happened to the 2 members. They've given us feedback. We have gone to the 2 families to report back firstly. Then a report on the investigation. And furthermore, come back and share the report with the school as we are about to report it here. And just to quickly give an update on other 2 cases that we dealt with. The one at Togoza, Kefekile Primary School. So far, since the outcomes of the report, the deputy principal has been charged, was identified by the outcomes from the investigation. And we have handed him a final written warning. And we further got a 2-month suspension without pay. He never appealed the outcomes of the DC. And furthermore, the school has gone on to rewrite and give up the anti-bullying policy in the school. We further capacitated and supported the SGB in the school to ensure that the school becomes a safe learning environment. This is as far as with that case. The second one that we're dealing with is the Queenswood one. Currently, the principal and other identified members of the school are currently going through a disciplinary process. As soon as the outcomes were done with the outcomes of that report of that school, we'll come back and give the report back to you. So this one we moved preliminary to request the principal the name to go to report at the district. While the investigation is unfolding. So obviously from today, based on the outcomes of the investigation, we'll then be able to determine what other steps should be taken. So I'll hand over to our young lawyer, Mrs.
Thank you.
To take us through the findings.
Thank you, MEC. Good morning, all. As you are all aware, our firm is appointed to conduct an investigation into the drowning of the 2 learners from the school. The incident occurred while the learners were attending a discipline camp at Rock Falls Adventure Ranch. The discipline camp was facilitated by a non-profit organization, Rising Stars Generation. In conducting our investigation, we held consultations, interviews, with only those individuals who are relevant. We interviewed the Sibiya and the Peterson families, the founder and the facilitators of Rising Stars Generation, the relevant personnel from Daveyton Skills School, including the principal, the social worker, the chairperson of the governing body, the administrator, 2 deputy principals, as well as members of the SMT. The learners that attended the discipline camp and the relevant officials from the district office, including the district director, the cluster manager, EOS, ISS, and the IDSO cluster leader. We also received information that was shared with us on an anonymous basis. We conducted an inspection in loco at the ranch on the 3rd as well as the 6th of May 2024, where we met with the owner of the ranch and his attorney and were informed to address any questions that we might have in writing, which we did. At the time of the report being finalized, we had not received responses to our questions from the owner of the ranch, despite our various follow-ups. For the findings as well as recommendations, in summary, the terms of reference had placed a number of questions that we were to answer as a firm. The first being the circumstances surrounding the incident. There is some uncertainty regarding the precise circumstances which took place around the incident on the 15th of April 2024. This is because we were presented with various versions from various persons who attended the discipline camp. They were somewhat similar in certain respects. The incident most likely took place after 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the 15th of April. The usual activities had taken place during the course of the day. The learners had done their laundry. Others had finished up a lesson on a car engine with the founder of the camp, Mr. Matome. Others were sleeping, others were cooking. Most of the facilitators were scattered around the camp. A group of learners began to swim in the dam for a short while, either after requesting permission from Mr. Matome to swim and being refused, or after being given permission by Mr. Matome to swim. This is where the confusion arises because of the different versions from the learners. Sibusiso and Siphamandla were among the group of learners who went to swim in the dam. Siphamandla was drowning when Sibusiso tried to save him. In the process, Sibusiso drowned as well. The learners that were around and inside the dam were screaming and shouting and pointing at the spot where the deceased learners had disappeared in the water. Mr. Matome and some of the facilitators who heard the shouting and were led to the dam jumped into the waters and attempted to save the learners. One of the facilitators who had jumped into the water almost drowned himself in the process. However, he was saved and subsequently resuscitated. At some point, while the incident took place, 2 other facilitators ran to the camp owner's home and informed the camp owner of the incident. They requested him to drain the dam urgently, to which he refused. The emergency services, including police divers, arrived, and the dam area was evacuated. The bodies of Sibusiso and Siphamandla were later recovered, and after which the paramedics conducted the signs of life checks, and the learners were pronounced dead. Secondly, the second question that was asked was whether approval was granted for the trip. No approval was granted by the department. The school did not submit any application for the trip, as required in terms of Regulation 7 of the tour regulations on domestic and international tours for learners at public schools. Crucial safety measures were, as a result, not adhered to by the school and which could not be identified or corrected by the department. Who was going to be responsible for the supervision of the learners during the camp? The principal instructed that only the social worker accompany the learners and supervise them at the camp. There were no educators that were invited or appointed to attend the camp with the learners. There were approximately 19 facilitators from Rising Stars that attended the camp with their children. This was not in accordance with the educator-learner ratio prescribed by the tour regulations, i.e. that at least 1 male educator accompanies every 20 male learners and at least 1 female educator accompanies every 20 female learners or part thereof. Who were the responsible personnel and educators at the time of the incident? Again, there were no educators that were appointed or invited to the camp to supervise the learners. The social worker, being the one person from the school appointed by the principal to attend and supervise the learners, was allegedly in the restroom when she heard the commotion. The facilitators from Rising Stars were scattered around the camp area but not by the dam when the incident took place. Whether the school and the campsite have insurance. According to the attorney representing the owner of the campsite, Mr. Gerard Wagner, they only have insurance on the building, and he could not elaborate any further. The school has insurance with Santam, and according to the principal, the premiums are up to date and the cover is valid. The insurance covers, amongst others, the death of a scholar. The conduct of the educators, the SMT, and the principal. Again, we reiterate, there were no educators that accompanied the learners at the discipline camp. The conduct of the principal is, however, extremely concerning. She did not obtain the requisite approval from the department for the trip. As a result, various safety measures were not adhered to, and the department did not have the opportunity to rectify the lack of security measures. She only sent one social worker to accompany and supervise the learners from the school camp. She failed to comply with the requisite educator-learner ratio in terms of the tour regulations. She relied on Mr. Matome and the facilitators of Rising Stars, who do not qualify as educators in accordance with the tour regulations. She did not verify their qualifications and presented them to parents as specialists. The principal failed to inform the parents of the risks associated with the activities that were to be undertaken by the learners. She was remiss in her duties as the principal of the school. The principal's reason for not complying with the regulations is that she did not know about these regulations. We find this version concerning, especially because there were at least 2 occasions whereby the department emphasized the importance of complying with the regulations, i.e., making a formal application 3 months prior to the trip. This was through an internal memo dated the 28th of January 2020, addressed to all public school principals and SGB chairpersons. It was more recently through a memo, 56 of 2024, tour submission approvals dated the 31st of January 2024, which was again addressed to all principals, including the principal of this specific school. We were provided with this email attaching the memo with the details of all the recipients. We can confirm that Daveyton Skills School was included in the list of recipients addressed to the principal on the 30th of January 2024. To add further, we also received a copy of the acknowledgement of the memo signed for by the principal, dated the 5th of February 2024. The memo is clear. It urges all schools to obtain departmental approval for a trip through an application to the district director at least 3 months prior to the departure date of the tour. It also further attaches a checklist and stressed that for the learners' protection, the checklist must be adhered to, and no tour applications will be signed by the district director if they do not adhere to the checklist. Finally, as a principal of a public school, she ought to have familiarized herself with the regulations as published in the Gazette by the department from time to time. The SMT members had no role in the planning of the trip. They were mainly informed about the trip by the principal. They also had no role in the preparation and the implementation of the business plan. Whether the matter was reported to the department and the cause of death of the learners. The principal reported the incident to the department on the 15th of April 2024. An incident report dated the 29th of April was compiled and signed by the school social worker on the school letterhead. When we consulted with the officials from the department, we were informed that the report was also shared with them. We cannot at this stage confirm the cause of death of the learners, as we had not had sight of the post-mortem reports at the time that this report was finalized. Next is whether the department is liable or not. Section 60 of the South African Schools Act provides that the state is liable for any damages or loss caused as a result of any act or omission in connection with any educational activity conducted by a public school, and for which such a public school would have been liable but for the provisions of this section. We do not wish to opine on any prospects, if any, of any claim that may be instituted. Whether the department may be liable or not will be determined by the relevant court, taking into consideration all the facts and circumstances of the matter. Whether or not there was any omission on the part of the department or its officials, and what the department can do to address the problem. The department through the district signed in November 2023 and approved on the 11th of December 2023 a business plan which was submitted by the school wherein the discipline camp and its funding formed part thereof. Further, the department funded the camp as per the business plan. While we understand that the business plan is mainly a plan of activities that the school wishes to undertake, and that the implementation thereof only comes into effect once it is approved, the relevant officials that signed and approved the business plan should have applied more scrutiny, especially when one considers that the nature of activities to be carried out and its suitability for learners with special educational needs. The nature of the activities for this discipline camp involves forcing learners to perform exercises which could constitute corporal punishment and is prohibited in terms of Section 10 of the South African Schools Act. The role of the SGB, if any. Generally, the SGB is tasked with promoting and protecting the interests of the school, ensuring the safety of learners, ensuring that learners are protected and there is peace around the school. In the current situation, the SGB is not functional because it is not performing any of the above mentioned functions. Also, the SGB was not involved in any respect in the planning of the trip. Regulation 9 of the tour regulation imposes obligations on the SGB to appoint an educator at the school as a tour manager to take overall responsibility for any tour by learners of that school. The SGB must ensure that at least one educator accompanies every 20 learners. And in the case of a tour where both male and female learners are participants, at least one male educator accompanies every 20 males, and one female educator accompanies 20 female learners. We have also noted that the two memos, either identified by or shared with us, which were to remind the principal and the school of the tour regulations, were also marked for the chairperson of the SGB's attention. The SGB did not ensure that there were educators to supervise the learners at the discipline camp, in accordance with Regulation 9. The SGB further did not ensure that the campsite was suitable for the learners, as they are trained in workshops to do so. The final question that was asked is whether counseling was provided or not, and whether it is necessary to provide it now. Based on discussions with everyone who was affected by the tragedy, it is apparent that adequate counseling was not provided. It may be appropriate for the department to consider engaging the relevant professionals to assist in this regard. Our recommendations are as follows. The department and or district or school must have accredited service providers who have gone through proper procurement processes, who have further been verified to possess the necessary skills, qualifications and capabilities to provide the required services. Schools must have adequate insurance cover and ensure that the insurance remains valid at all times. Daveyton Skills School must have a fully functional SGB. The school must further be trained on departmental policies and regulations on a regular basis. There must be constant interaction and information sharing between the school and the district office. Harmonization between the tour regulations and the safety regulations in respect of the personnel required to accompany learners on tours and the educator-learner ratio must take place. The safety regulations and tour regulations must be stringent and impose responsibilities on the school to make arrangements for pre-trip inspections prior to tours being undertaken. More scrutiny should be applied by the district when approving business plans. Supporting documents should be attached to such business plans. Now that the department is aware of what was happening at the school, there were behavioral issues that are mentioned in the main report. We suggest that they should assist the school to remedy the channels between the school and parents. Such communication should include all official languages where possible. Finally, disciplinary action should be taken against
I can go straight to question. I think it's quite
And we indicate and then we remember your number. 1 solo, Mpila 2, Bola 3, this side. Okay, we'll come back. Go ahead.
Let me see, it's here from Kylie's. You guys had visited the families earlier today, and what was very relating to this? And my second question is that the third learner who almost lost their life in this, have you engaged that family as well, and also to find out how the child is doing and have they gotten psychosocial support?
Okay, Mpila.
Thank you, Mr. Abdul, from ENCA. Just on the disciplinary action that's recommended here, what are we possibly looking at? Will there be criminal elements given that the lives of children were lost here, maybe culpable homicide towards the principal? And as a department, do you accept that you are partly to blame in terms of not ensuring that the systems are in place?
Zola Shalana from Newsroom Africa. MEC, on the issue of these excursions that are related to swimming, and I understand this one, I mean the district was not aware about this one. Are you not going to have perhaps strict policies on schools about these type of excursions or anything that's related to such? Because, you know, this incident came after Latoya Hamilton's incident, and you know, there's been quite a few of them. What are you going to do to avoid, you know, us sitting here again on another case in the near future?
Yes, the report was clear.
Now you come to the second half. They're still thinking. See, two of them, they're looking at me.
That's fine.
They're complaining about the lost lessons. What about
Thank you for the questions. I thought that the report was quite clear. No, I've not visited the family of them, but I do believe that we did provide psychosocial to all those learners that they usually went to the camp. This was the last decision we made to the school. I just have to follow up if they miss any of them. But in terms of psychosocial being available to all the learners who had the camp, we did attempt to do that. So in terms of support, not yet. I'm uncertain what type of support that we want, but I do believe that mostly it's more emotional support, mental wellness support, and we do give from time to time. So we monitor such schools. Remember, this is a school with special educational needs, for learners with special educational needs. So obviously the approach will be different as opposed to the mainstream public ordinary schooling. So as for the DC, there's a criminal investigation being undertaken by the police. There's an investigating officer that's on the case. The families didn't open the case. So that is a matter that the NPA are dealing with. As you heard within the report, we do not have access to the post-mortem report because of the investigation that's taking place. So that aspect is not within our purview. The only part that we are responsible for is what is within our purview in this regard, the policy, how was it followed, the regulation was it followed. So the investigation was able to determine that the principal in the main, as the main person, did not follow anything. Literally, it was unilateral decision from start to finish. So now that is where we come in, and that's where we so the DC process will begin immediately. Post now, so that we simply receive this report. And to say we're partly to blame, and noting that these incidents occur, the report speaks about two memos that were released, 28th and 31st of January. So these memos if we share them with you, speak up, and you see that it talks about excursions. You know, the rules. It's a thorough checklist that we had agreed to. That it needs to be tightened. And I believe if the school had just followed that checklist, will not be here. So in terms of us really dealing with this aspect of these excursions, especially where there's water activities, we tightened it within policy, but we've also noted the recommendations that have been consistent. But for that we need to move to, okay, it says that we need to begin to, at the level of the province, at the head office, identify these camps that pre-approved, that we pre-approve them, then we share with them in schools. And that's a recommendation that we received, and it's a process that we'll undertake, so that we pre-approve these camps, and from our side we know that if children are at this camp, we know this camp meets the minimum requirement that we want. For example, lifeguards. The question would be, where are the lifeguards? Because where there's water, there should be a lifeguard. So clearly, because they said that 18, 19 facilitators, I don't know, maybe they were lifeguards, facilitator, lifeguards, but these are some of the requirements that we put in what we release to the public, for public to really begin to build and say, this is want to form part of the list. We meet the requirements of the lifeguard, we meet the requirements of the depth of the water. Is this facility conducive for learners in primary school? Is it conducive for learners in secondary school? And so forth. So those are the areas that we look at. So to say we are partly to blame, I think in this regard, we as a department, we've done our part. The principal was supposed to follow the policy, and clearly she did not. So it can't be we didn't do anything with regard to that. And what is said, the other thing is, we did visit them earlier, and they didn't receive the report well, because I mean, it's as if we unearthed the pain that they were trying to really move on from. So it was quite painful for them. And one of the issues they raised was this Rising Stars. They're still operating normally. Some schools, I'll check, but some schools are taking learners there. And this is what I want to say to mainly to schools, that if there's an incident in a particular camp, ideally, logically should tell you that area you shouldn't, there's a problem. But they say the camp is operating. I'm not saying it's schools that are there. It can be anything, it can be private excursions or different groupings, but it's still operating normally. So we will act on the recommendation that we're going to write to the social development to really consider revoking, because they didn't comply, they didn't assist us in the report, in the investigation. Honestly, it was just hostility from start to finish. Starting from the draining of the dam, the owner refused. When they wanted to visit, when they wanted questions, to go and ask questions to the owner brought a lawyer and said, write everything to us. And some of the questions have still not been responded to by the lawyers. So clearly just hostility and that's arrogance, to put it like it's arrogance from these individuals. And we should really shun against such facilities as a department. So we know that these are people that don't really want to work with the department or with the people of Gauteng properly. So just in essence, that's where we are. But in terms of failure in the system, no, we have not really failed. The system hasn't failed. We've put precautions, we have policy, we release memos. Schools must just comply. And the third part, what needs to be understood is that we don't want to be taking educators to DC and suspending them and Eventually, somebody will get dismissed. It's not what we want, you know. We want, I like peace. My second name is Kopano. You try to meet. I like peace, greater rato, greater calmness. I don't want this thing. But if it happens like it happened, we'll have to act, and we're acting. You know, and unfortunately we'll keep on acting on every single school or educator that gets us into this position. We'll keep on acting, suspending people, dismissing people eventually until everybody does what they're supposed to do and do right.
Okay, thanks very much, Lucy. Okay, second last round. Second and last. One. Done.
MEC Doreen Mokolo here from Scholar.Africa. I just want to find out, talking about taking action, are you going to take any action? What kind of action are you going to take against the principal and the social worker? Are you by any chance going to take any action against her or him?
Okay, MC?
Yeah, the social worker, firstly, no, there won't be any action. Remember, the social worker was acting on instruction of the principal. That's what the investigation was able to determine. It was not from her own accord, taking learners. The principal was the main person. The principal knew and knows that once there's an excursion, there needs to be educators, because educators understand learners to form part of this. So she excluded everybody, she excluded the SGB. The report speaks about the SGB didn't know anything. So the social worker there will be no any charge against her. It's a her. It's only the school principal that will be acted upon. Already, as I said earlier, we have requested them to report at the district in the interim while we're doing an investigation. Now that we're done, we're moving straight into disciplinary process, and we think that obviously there's a process for suspension and so forth. So this is where we are now.
Okay, thanks very much. Last bite.
Okay, and this is Centurion from Kindness. The SGB, from this report, it sounds that the SGB also had failures in this report. What are you going to be doing with the SGB at the school that has failed to ensure that this place was correct for learners to be taken into study?
MC?
Yeah, the SGB is new. Remember, we just came back from the process of electing SGBs. It ended on the 31st of March. 31st of March. So these are all new SGBs. So obviously, they were still undergoing some form of induction and training. So within the report, obviously speaks about capacitating them further. So we'll have to train them. And remember, these are parental bodies. They get elected democratically. So we can't assume that automatically they'll be well invested with policy. So we have to take them through and really give them a bit of time. So they were still new. I think somewhere those who know policy is the educators, the school principal in the main knows the do's and the don'ts. So these ones were still new, but within the report it is highlighted that we have to capacitate them and provide them with additional support. And further, more additional support to the school, because the report was able to uncover some challenges within the school. So we have noted that as well. So we will come in, keeping a close eye on the school to provide more additional support so that it does really stabilize.
Thank you very much. 1, 2.
I just want to find.
Follow up and then you come.
Okay, I just want to find out, MEC, do we know how soon did the school respond to the invite? Because I understand that the Rising Star came in to invite them. Do we know the time frame when they submitted the invite and the principal responding and sending the kids away?
She'll respond to that. They have something. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Steve. My name is Matome from Times Life. You mentioned hostility from the NGO and the ranch money, meaning the owner. So I'm sure we've seen it in the previous time, with, especially with Nokumpianzi, with the families suing the Department of Education. And you mentioned that the families have opened criminal cases. So I just need to understand from the Department of Education now, because the principal is your employee. Are you not compelled to open cases against the owner of that ranch or the NGO, given that they are the ones that caused the death of the children? And if families were to sue, they will come to the Department of Education.
You'll answer that one, legal. No, that you'll answer that one. Let's start here.
To answer your question, ma'am, it's a very short answer. There was no invite per se from Rising Stars to the school. The school actually went out looking for a camp. The principal went looking for a camp.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I get that.
No, it's I'm sorted. It's fine.
Okay, look at that. Okay, one more.
As MEC previously stated, criminal processes are dealt by the CPS. But when it comes to whether the branch is liable or not, the report has recommended that we will deal with that at the time when, if we are sued, we are at liberty to join the camp if they were found to have done something wrong. So, civil case allows the department to join the camp into the any intervention against the department.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen,
criminal cases.
yes. Okay, thank you very much. Those that are going to Pretoria are opening for. Fila, are you doing one? All of you. Zola. Covered. Only two.
Green.
This one.